Hello, welcome to Lesson 7, Introduction to Slope. Today we will be looking at various lines and we will determine if the slope is positive, negative, undefined, or zero. Before we begin, let's look at our first slide. Introduction to slope. The slope of a line is the measure of its tilt or slant. You can find the slope of any line by comparing 2 points on the line. Slope is defined as the vertical change divided by the horizontal change. So, before we get started, let me introduce you to the 4 types of slope. Okay, so our first type of slope would be positive. So positive just means that the line is going up and to the right. So think about your grades. If they are going up, that's a positive thing. If they're going down, that's a negative thing. So if your line is going down, that's a negative slope. So when your grades go down, that is not a good thing, that's negative. When they go up, that is positive. Okay? So if you ever get confused on what type of slope it is, go back to your grades. The next type of slope that you may see is a slope that is zero. Okay? So think of a horizontal line. It has no slope, okay? So the slope is simply zero. And if perhaps you're going to be a carpenter when you grow up, you want your floors to be nice and level, okay? No slope. When you're walking from one room to the next, you should not be going uphill or downhill to get to your kitchen from your bedroom, okay? And then our last type of slope would be a vertical slope, okay? And it is known as undefined, okay? So this type of slope has a special name and it's undefined. And how you can tell those 2 slopes apart is think about Spider-Man. He's undefined. He can climb buildings, okay? That normally does not happen in real life, so he is undefined. So a line going up and to the right would have a positive slope. A line going down and to the right, negative. A horizontal line, zero, and a vertical line, undefined. Okay, so now what I want to practice with you is determining the slope of a line when given 2 points. Okay, so as you can tell, I have a nice graph on my board. So I'm going to plot some lines. Okay, so we'll start with this first one. So I have a nice line, okay? And the line is going up and to the right. All right, so our job is to count from point to point. To determine the slope, it's the change in your y-axis divided by the change in your x-axis, okay? So let me fix my little line a little bit better. All right, so I have 2 points. Let's pretend they represent people. Maybe this is Heather's house and this is Kathy's. All right, Heather's going to go visit her friend Kathy. Again, it's the change in y divided by the change in x. All right, so if I'm moving up and down, that's the change in y. If I'm moving left and right, that's the change in x. So I would have to go up 2 blocks, okay, to get even with Kathy's street. So 2 over, and then you jump over 2 more blocks, and I'm at Kathy's house. So 2 divided by 2 is equal to 1. So we just simplified our slope. So the slope of this line would be 1. Okay, so to determine the slope when given 2 points, you can simply count. Okay, we counted up and over the change in your y values divided by the change in your x. If you don't quite understand yet, at least give me 3 more examples before you start to complain and get frustrated. So this is brand new for some of you. So it's going to take us a little while before we get used to it. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and write change in y divided by the change in x. Okay, so that's our slope formula. The change in y divided by the change in x. All right, so let's try another line. Perhaps we have a point here and a point here. Okay, so I have 2 points. I'm going to connect those points to form a line. All right, trying to keep my lines nice and straight. All right, so I want to know the slope of this line. So I'm going to count down and over. Could I count over and up? Yes, I could count up and over, but our goal is to get the change in y divided by the change in x. Okay, remember our y-axis is our vertical axis and our x-axis is our horizontal. All right, so let's count, and actually I'll do Zane's house and Tanner's house, okay? So these 2 boys are going to go hang out. So how many blocks would Zane have to walk down? 1, 2, 3, 4. He would walk down 4 blocks. So that's my change in my y values. How many blocks would I continue to move over until I reach Tanner's house? 1, 2, 3. So our slope this time is 4/3. However, look at the direction of the line. It is going down and to the right, and back to our 4 types of slopes. A line that's going down has a negative slope. So our final answer would be -4/3. And notice that I have an improper fraction, which means the numerator is larger than the denominator. Whew. So the numerator is larger than the denominator. And that's how we should keep it. We never want to put our slope in mixed fraction form. So just leave it as improper. And what that means is I'm going down 4 units and to the right 3. Okay, so far so good. All right. What if I had a line that looked like this? Okay. So I have 2 points, but it's horizontal. Do I need to count? No. Horizontal flat lines have no slope, so the slope would be 0. So this line has a slope of 0. There's no change, okay? So if I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I would count 5 units, but I didn't go up or down, so that would be 0, okay? So my slope is going to be 0. There's no need to count, just use your eyes. And if you have a horizontal line, you should always remember that that is flat, it has no slope, 0. Okay? I bet you can guess what my next example is going to be. And it's a vertical line. If I go back to my 4 types of slopes, we can be reminded that a vertical line has an undefined slope. Okay? Undefined. Okay? So an undefined slope. I'm not moving to my left or to my right whenever I would count, if I was to count. If I wanted to find the change in the y divided by the change in the x, I go up 1, 2, 3, 4. So my change in my y values would be 4, but I'm not moving to the left or to the right, okay? So 4 divided by 0, and if you would type that in on a calculator, you're going to get an error message. So I always tell my students, if you're trying to check your math, when you get that error message, that means something isn't looking correct. It's undefined, okay? We can divide 0 by a number, just as our last example had a horizontal line, okay? So if I was going to count, just to remind you, like if I had 0 divided by 2, it would simply say 0, okay? All right. Now, I want to do something a little bit different now. Let's pretend you do not have points on your line. What are we going to do if there are no points on your line? Okay, so let's say you have a line that looks like this, and you are asked to determine the slope. Well, there's no points on the line, and we just discussed that you count from point to point to determine the slope. So if you come across a line that has no points, all you have to do is simply find those points. But the trick to it is the point has to go through the corner of the box. It has to be an exact ordered pair, no halves. So it looks like this line is coming right through my origin, So I'm going to give it a point here, and if I travel on up, it looks like it's coming exactly through the center there, okay? So once I give it the 2 points, then I just count. So up 2 units, right 2 units. And notice you always simplify your fraction. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So my slope is 1, okay? So this was a short introduction to finding the slope when given a line that has points, or perhaps it does not have points. I will see you in Lesson 8.